The Late Great Planet Earth, Chapter 10, continued. Stay tuned to the facts. We're not playing a game of biblical hopscotch when we turn from one prophet to another. If there was not a strong recurring theme in all the prophets, this book would have no validity. It is the complete agreement of all parts of biblical prophecy which makes its study so absorbing, so filled with tingling vitality for the 20th century that it is a wonder that every preacher in every pulpit doesn't shake the ecclesiastical rafters with this subject. Daniel was a prophet whose themes are far-reaching and who predicted events which are yet to happen in the history of our world, events which we are studying in the context of this book. Daniel was a Hebrew nobleman who was taken captive in Babylon by the king of the empire, Nebuchadnezzar. This king had Daniel and several other Jewish noblemen who showed unusual intelligence put into a special school of the wise men. The wise men was a general designation given to the astrologers and magicians of the Babylonian Empire, and Daniel was trained in all the wisdom of the Babylonians. He became an expert in these fields, but he didn't buy it. It was a tremendous test of Daniel's faith because he was literally brainwashed by the Babylonian religion, but he kept his belief in God in spite of all this training. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream which really bothered him and gave him insomnia. He called the whole gang out to help him with this, all his magicians and astrologers and sorcerers and Chaldeans. Daniel 2:2. The first category or word which is translated magician means the special sacred scribes, in order of the wise men who had charge of the sacred writings which were handed down all the way from the time of the Tower of Babel. Some of the earliest known literature on the face of this earth were these books of magic, astrology, and the black arts. The next word, astrologer, means literally to whisper. It came to mean conjure. These were men who were enchanters who would cast spells through the spirit medium. They had all kinds of chants and low muttering songs through which they thought they could cast out evil. The sorcerers means the black magic art. The same word is used for the Egyptian magicians who confronted Moses, Exodus 7:11. Through their black art, they duplicated several miracles which Moses performed in the court. For instance, they turned water into blood. When Moses cast down his rod and it turned into a serpent, these sorcerers did the same thing in the court of Pharaoh. It wasn't until God enabled Moses to perform miracles that they couldn't duplicate that these magicians said that this was the finger of God. The Egyptians had all of these arts which the Babylonians exported to them. The next word, Chaldeans, was the priest caste of all of them. Whenever you see the word Chaldean, it can be translated equally well as astrology. Several great linguists unanimously agree on this point, that the Chaldeans studied a person's birthday, asking the very hour a person was born, and then they would cast a horoscope of his destiny. You will find that this thinking has permeated the Aramaic world, the Arabs, the Persians, etc. This is where the idea of kismet came from. It means it is inevitable, it is fate. What will happen will happen. The ancient astrologers believed that your fate was written in the stars before you were born, and you can't alter the course of your destiny. The Babylonian kings did not make a move without consulting their astrologers, and the Medo-Persians who conquered the Babylonians did the same thing. They too had their court astrologers and wise men. When the Greek, Alexander the Great, conquered the Medo-Persian Empire, he also began to follow the astrologers and their wisdom. The practice was transported to Rome, where we see the Caesars consulting the augurs, who were experts in astrology, spiritism, and the black arts. While Nebuchadnezzar called upon his wise men for help and advice, none of them could tell him his dream or the interpretation. However, Daniel proved he was a true prophet of God when he was able to tell the king what the dream was and then give its interpretation. Daniel really puts the bite on his fellow colleagues and shows them up for the frauds they were. Nebuchadnezzar's dream, described by Daniel and interpreted by this prophet of God, turns out to be the whole course of world powers that would conquer the world right up to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Daniel shows that astrologers cannot accurately predict the future. As a matter of fact, God condemns astrology. In Deuteronomy 18, astrologers were commanded in that day, under the law of Moses, to be put to death. Astrology is the backbone of the ancient religion of Babylon, but there is no such thing as a man's fate being controlled by the stars. Man's fate is controlled by God alone. Whenever a person gets sold out by things like astrology, it will be like the Israelis. Israel was judged and virtually destroyed and taken to Babylon in 606 BC because the people became devoted to idolatry, especially astrology. 2 Kings 23 makes this clear when it says that God wiped out the high places and all of the places where they burned incense to the stars of heaven or to the constellation, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Emergence of the one world religion. Now we are coming to some of the most important pieces of the prophetic puzzle which are shown in the scriptures. In Revelation 17, the Apostle John has a vision which shows the future and precisely what is going to happen on earth the last 7 years before Christ returns. In Revelation 17, John is given one of the most important prophecies for us to understand, because he is exposing a one-world religious system which will bring all false religions together in one unit. Through this system, Satan's Antichrist will take over the world, and he's going to do it first with Rome as home base, and then from Jerusalem.